The story of Jonah, the big fish, and God's obedience. Hey there, friends. Today, let's dive into a wild and fascinating story from the Bible about a guy named Jonah. You might have heard of him. He's known for a pretty big fish adventure that's full of twists and turns. So grab your snacks, sit back, and let's chat about how Jonah learned a big lesson about listening to God. Jonah's call from God. So here's the scoop. God called Jonah to be a prophet, which means he wanted Jonah to deliver some important messages. Specifically, God asked Jonah to go to a city called Nineveh and tell the people there to straighten up. The folks in Nineveh weren't exactly on God's good list. They were known for being pretty naughty. But instead of heading to Nineveh, Jonah thought it might be a great idea to hop a ship and flee in the opposite direction, Tarshish, to be exact. Imagine Jonah thinking, nope, not doing that, in his head as he booked his ticket on this ship. Here's the thing. Though running away from God is usually not the best plan, and things were about to get real interesting. The journey and the storm. Once Jonah settled on the ship, it probably felt like a regular day of sailing, at least for a little while. But out of nowhere, a gigantic storm hit. The wind howled, the waves crashed, and the sailors were freaking out. They were throwing their cargo overboard, desperate to save their lives. Can you picture it? They were worried they'd capsize, and then they noticed Jonah chilling below deck, completely unaware of the chaos happening above. As the storm raged on, the sailors finally woke Jonah up. They were shocked when he admitted he was the reason for all this trouble. Imagine their faces. Jonah tells them to throw him overboard to calm the storm. It was a tough decision for the sailors, but they eventually did what Jonah said. Jonah's revelation. So here's where it gets even crazier. The moment Jonah hit the water, the storm calmed down immediately. The sailors were amazed and recognized that Jonah's God must be powerful. They even offered a sacrifice to God on the spot. Meanwhile, poor Jonah was sinking into the ocean. But don't worry, the wild parts of this story have just begun. Out of nowhere, a big fish, let's be honest, probably a whale, came along and swallowed Jonah whole. Can you believe that? No Disney movie has anything on this story. For 3 whole days and nights, Jonah found himself in the belly of this fish. Talk about a stinky, dark, and cramped situation. It wasn't a spa day, that's for sure. The big fish. Now, while Jonah was in his fishy prison, he started to think. A lot. This was his chance to reflect on everything that had happened and to talk to God. Jonah prayed from the belly of the fish, crying out for help and admitting that he had messed up by running away. It's kind of like when we know we've done something silly and just need to say, I'm sorry. Guess what? God listened. After 3 days, God told the fish to spit Jonah out onto dry land. Can you imagine the fish just barfing Jonah out? That's one way to get a second chance. Jonah's second chance. Now, with a whole new attitude, Jonah set off towards Nineveh to deliver God's message. He probably looked a bit rough around the edges after his fishy adventure. When he finally arrived, he did what God asked him to do. He preached to the people of Nineveh to repent for their wickedness. And you know what? The unexpected happened. The people took Jonah seriously. They listened, believed God, and decided to change their